Wonderful. I have the pleasure of being able to introduce you to Christian Garcia tonight. Christian was born and raised in a farm labor camp in Watsonville, California. His parents and two older brothers immigrated from Mexico in the 1980s to work as farm laborers. Christian is the first of his family to graduate from college, and he went to CSU Chico. Post-college, Christian was part of the Organizing and Leadership Academy's inaugural class, an intensive 6-week program for individuals interested in learning effective community organizing skills, and eventually became their first executive director. For over a decade, Christian worked at Pramatola, LLC, where he coached community members and organizers on effective grassroots organizing campaigns and provided direction, training, and strategic advice to community-based organizations, healthcare districts, school districts, cities, and candidates. After Roe versus Wade was overturned, Christian joined the reproductive freedom movement as vice president of government relations and communications at Planned Parenthood in Northern California. This is such an unsettled time in our country and for Planned Parenthood as well. We look forward to hearing about the situation from one of their representatives. Let's welcome Christian. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all so much for welcoming me. And, I've spoken to a couple of groups now, and I keep telling them the same thing, because I really believe that in this period of time and everything that we're living through, it's so hard to find hope. It's so hard to find things that keep us going. And it's groups like this that give me hope. It's groups like this that are continuing to fight for democracy, that are showing up and giving up their evenings to really, plan ahead and think about what's coming. So I just wanted to acknowledge all of you for that. Is my internet buffering?
We're having a little bit of an issue with a little delay, Christian.
Okay, let me see if I can switch routers. Give me a second. I'm going to go blank for like 30 seconds. Hold on.
Great.
Okay, hopefully that works.
That sounds much better.
Perfect. I apologize. We got 3 routers in this house, and there's always one that doesn't work, or now one that gives up right when I need it. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be here with you today and just give you a little update in terms of what's happening with Planned Parenthood. I think we get a lot of news, big picture of the attacks on reproductive health care services, gender-affirming care, abortion care. But it's hard sometimes because some people don't know the layer cakes and what does that mean locally for my Planned Parenthood down the street. Solano County, we have 2 Planned Parenthoods. We have the center down in Vallejo, and then we have the other center in Fairfield. But on top of that, we also have 20 counties that we service. So today what I want to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of PP NorCal, our service area, the number of health centers that we have, a little bit about our patient population. And then I want to fill you in on some of the recent attacks from the Federation that you're probably hearing about in the news. And there was a big one that broke last week around mifepristone and the accessibility of the abortion pill. So I'll get into a little bit of that. And then I have seen a few questions in the chat here that I'm more than happy to answer as well. So let me share my screen briefly, or I'm going to have to get access if someone can give me. There we go. Okay.
Hang on a sec. Oh, Julia, did you already do it? There you go.
All right. Can you all see that pretty well? I'm not going to make it big because otherwise I'll lose it all. So for us, there's in the state of California, there are 7 what are called Planned Parenthood affiliates. And each one of us has our own independent board of directors, CEO, executive team that makes decisions for the counties that we serve. So for us in Northern California, We're the most northern region. We serve everything from Contra Costa, San Francisco, Solano County, all the way up to the Oregon border up in Eureka. And then there's Mar Monte, who is Alameda County, all the way down to Bakersfield and the state of Nevada. They're the biggest affiliate in the country. And then there's Central Coast, which is a little bit smaller. It's mostly Santa Barbara, Camarillo kind of area. There's Los Angeles. That's just the city of Los Angeles that they serve in the county. And then there's Pasadena, San Gabriel, Orange, and San Bernardino, and then Pacific Southwest. So all together, these 7 affiliates, we make up what's called Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California. We work with Planned Parenthood Federation, which is who you see in the news. You see a lot of people from the Federation who are constantly, making the talk shows and doing all of that. The Federation does not provide healthcare services. They are simply just the entity that provides the accreditation, that makes sure that all these other affiliates, the 7 here in California, plus the 42 others across the country, are following all the federal state guidelines, that we are up to par for our medical standards, and that we're providing the ultimate service to our patients. Here in California, we come together for pretty frequently. I would say there's 6 other counterparts that I work with that have the same role that I do. And we're constantly in communication when it comes to policy issues, crisis communication, et cetera. So there's a big channel of communication. And then collectively, for our political power, we also come together to make recommendations on statewide endorsements. And then each affiliate takes care of their own local endorsement, from state senate all the way down to some provide school board, some provide board of supervisors. We provide everything down to city council. We don't do school board races in our affiliate yet. I say yet because I've only been here 3 years and we still got more work ahead of us. As I mentioned, we have 20 counties. We have 17 health centers that are brick and mortar, but we also have a robust telehealth department that we launched right during COVID and has expanded to serve all 58 counties across the state. And so that's where we're able to do medicated abortion services. We're able to provide gender-affirming care for a lot of rural patients. And I can't tell you enough how much our telehealth department has really been a game changer for our communities, especially those rural counties that we serve. Because a lot of times patients can't come to a health center because of transportation barriers, cost, et cetera. So being able to get that service through online just makes a huge difference. And especially for patients who are coming from out of state, from bad acting states like Texas, Arizona, et cetera, they're able to come to California. Doesn't matter where they're at, as long as they're in California, we can serve them through telehealth, get them what they need, make sure that they're fine, and then they head back home. We have a little bit over 400 employees, and we serve about 74,000. I'm going to round this up, 75,000 patients, and that account for about 160,000 visits or so. The one thing that I've been really kind of screaming loud over the last year since the defund of Planned Parenthood is how we're more than just an abortion provider, and we're more than just a women's clinic. And I think that's a narrative that a lot of people sometimes confuse or try to pigeonhole Planned Parenthood into one box. And so while we are proud to provide abortion care, and it's the bread and butter of what we do, it really only accounts for about 5 to 9% of our services. The vast majority of our services are STI testing and treatment, contraception visits. Believe it or not, we've been seeing a lot of men come in for vasectomies, especially since Roe was overturned. We actually have a long list, especially up in Eureka. So there's a little bit of a wait list there of people to get their vasectomies. But then gender affirming care. And I also want to clarify that when we talk about gender affirming care, there's also this narrative about, operating tables and sex changes just happening on the fly. But it's a lot more than that. It really is about counseling. It's working with the patient before there's any medication provided. And it's quite a very thoughtful process that is that is a service that's continuously being under attack. And the other thing that we provide that is very critical to a lot of our patients is cancer screening and prevention. And that's men and women as well. Breast cancer, colonoscopies is something that are launching as well. And so for a lot of our patients, we are their primary care provider because they may not have access to, a doctor in their community. And I can tell you firsthand, growing up in Watsonville with farm working parents, we didn't have access to a primary care physician. But Planned Parenthood was our primary care provider. It was where I went and got my vaccinations when I was doing sports. It's where I went to um, get my annual checkups. And I think it's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about being here at PP NorCal is because I feel like I've come full circle and I'm now repaying back to some of the communities that I grew up with. A little bit about the patients that we serve. 84% of them rely on some sort of public health insurance, whether that's Medi-Cal or Medicaid for some patients. Um, 83% are women or non-binary. 82% are low income. 47% are Latino, Latina. 43% are LGBTQ. And about 73% are under the age of 34. So we do come across a lot of young folks. Here's a little bit about where we're located. So as I mentioned, we have 20 counties, but our physical locations for the northern region is Clear Lake, Chico, Eureka, Redding, Ukiah, Santa Rosa. Our inner Bay area is El Cerrito, San Francisco, San Rafael, San Ramon, Walnut Creek. Central Bay is Napa, Fairfield, Vallejo, Concord, Hilltop, and Antioch. And then now let me get into a little bit of what's going on. So post-Roe, with the Dobbs decision, we were in this state of flux, and and to be honest with you, Planned Parenthood had been preparing for this since 2016, even before Trump got elected. Just a scenario of whether that was going to happen or not in Trump 1.0, a lot of the CEOs and the affiliates came together to really figure out what do we need to do here, and what do we need to do here in California to ensure that reproductive health care remains accessible. One of the immediate things that was created was the Abortion Council. And that was a combination of organizations, elected officials, community leaders from all walks of life and all kinds of experiences, not just healthcare providers, but advocates as well, to really develop the roadmap of what would happen in this scenario, never thinking that we would actually need it. And so we finally needed it in 2023. And so what happened from there is we were able to work with the state legislator, with the governor, to just pass an onslaught of legislation that really codified abortion access and reproductive health care services here in California. And thanks to many of you who voted on Proposition 1, made it a constitutional amendment that is now a part of California. And so what that allows us to do is continue to protect ourselves from the federal attacks, but it doesn't make us entirely imminent. We are still at the risk of threats, and I'll get into those in a little bit. But some of the challenges that we see nationally are just the changing landscape. It changes from one day to the next, one emotion to the next. Our capacity to meet increased demands. The moment that abortion became illegal in other states and it became a challenge for folks, we did see suitcases and people arriving in our San Francisco location, Walnut Creek, Concord. And so we needed to act fast and make sure that anybody that we could move to telehealth created space in our health centers to be able to serve those patients coming from out of state. Again, that telehealth really made a difference. The legal uncertainties, there was so much at stake, whether what could we do, what couldn't we do, what would we risk by putting our providers in a situation where they're providing an abortion here, a patient goes back, could Texas come back and sue that person? And again, working with Attorney General Bonta and others to figure those things out so that we had that protection in place. And then we continue to see just cross-state enforcement is still questionable. We've seen some cases of folks. So it's always been a challenge. And then here in California, as I mentioned, the civil criminal and professional liability. Again, that's for our patient, that's for our organization being threatened, whether or not we were going to get funds cut off to us. Providers were going to be imprisoned for doing what they were doing. But then we also see this thing of enrollment. We see a lot of patients who are no longer showing up to appointments, especially with the increased activity of ICE. And as I mentioned earlier, 47%, almost half of our patients are Spanish-speaking Latino. And even though some of them may have green cards or be here legally, or like myself, be first generation, we have family members, we live in multi-generational households, so we don't want to take any risks. So we're seeing an under enrollment of some of those patients coming in. Our workforce, they do incredible work. Have big hearts, but it's very demanding work. It's very emotional work. And so making sure that we're supporting them, that we're providing everything that they need to feel supported. As I mentioned, just challenges with telehealth, what could be supported through it or not, privacy protections for our patients, and then security at our health centers as we're seeing more and more emboldened protesters showing up to our doors. And we have some incredible patient escort volunteers, but in San Francisco, Walnut Creek, some of those places, because they believe they're going to get more publicity, we see bigger numbers of those protesters showing up. The most immediate thing that happened this year was the defund of Planned Parenthood. So through HR 1, which was passed by July 4th of last year, there was this one line that said that an entity that is a 501c3 nonprofit that is providing essential community provider in family planning, reproductive health care, provides abortion, and receives over $800,000 in reimbursement from Medicaid in FY23 is prohibited from receiving any matching funds for Medicaid patients. So that basically, if you all recall, what percentage of our patients are Medi-Cal recipients, it's about 80%. So 80% of our revenue went away overnight with this one line in this resolution. And so immediately after that, we filed a lawsuit with all the affiliates and with PPFA support to overturn this because it was infringing our First Amendment right to be able to receive and provide care to these patients. We continued that lawsuit, got a temporary restraining order, aka we were allowed to continue to get Medicaid reimbursements for about a month and a half. And it was 6 weeks of a roller coaster ride. One day we could get reimbursements, other days we couldn't. And so there was multiple efforts behind the scenes to have a legal battle, but also work with the governor and the state legislator to really have them put their word where their mouth is with, can we protect reproductive health care here in California? And so with their support, and even after the legislative session ended, so now we're talking July, August, we were able to get some emergency funds to keep us afloat through December of 2025, with the commitment of them working with us to find additional resources to make us whole at least through the end of this defund that ends on June 30th of this year. And so fortunately enough, we were able to receive that support in January. And so right now, at least here in California, we are still able to provide this care and we're able to get reimbursed. But for a couple of months there, we really had to tighten up our belts. We had to make sure that we were looking internally at every possible revenue stream that if there was, for example, in my department, we ended up transferring over the community health workers to government relations because we needed more people out in the community, engaging community members, tabling, informing folks that our doors were open, that we were still here to serve them. So we were trying to find ways to really make efficiencies across the organization. If we didn't need certain medications, we only ordered as needed rather than having extras in stock. That saved us a ton of money, but we were always trying to find ways to do our due diligence. And then the other piece of it is donors really showed up in big ways. We launched what's called the Care Can't Wait campaign. And that also helped us during this period of defund. Um, and that campaign is still going through right now. I mentioned some of this already, but just, for us, that was a $43 million loss that we were facing, because it's 70% of our revenue that comes from Medi-Cal reimbursement. Across the state in California, that was 300 million. So that's all the 7 Planned Parenthood affiliates combined. Um, and then I mentioned the Care Can't Wait campaign, $12 million campaign. We're about $7 million, and we still have a couple months to go. And then the latest attack is mifepristone, and you all have probably been following this in the news in the last week and a half. So this originated right after the Dobbs decision. The Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine sued the U.S. FDA, basically questioning whether or not mifepristone, which was FDA tested and approved back in 2000, after multiple trials and whatnot, and had been on the market or is on the market now for 26 years or so. And they began to question whether or not this was safe to use. They were trying to find every avenue. Basically, from that Supreme Court decision in 2024, the Supreme Court came back and said, there's not enough evidence to overturn this. Miffy can remain available, but FDA, you need to do more research. So it was a good thing for us, even though it was in question, because we were allowed to continue to provide mifepristone. And there's 2 forms of a medicated abortion that we provide. Mifepristone is one of them, and misoprostol is the other one. So Miffy and miso go together. Miffy is also used for a variety of things. They also use them for when someone's giving birth, and if they need to increase, labor, they provide Miffy to really help with that. So this medication has multiple uses to it, not just abortion care. And then just a couple of days after the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine versus the FDA case, the state of Louisiana jumped in and said, well, no, we don't agree with the Supreme Court. We are going to question whether or not Miffy can be provided through telehealth or sent to pharmacies or sent via mail. Because if you want to provide it in health centers, people need to come in. So the state of Louisiana filed that lawsuit. It didn't have any traction for about a year until about 2 weeks ago. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal chimed in and basically said, we agree with the state of Louisiana, and we are immediately stopping mifepristone from being accessible to patients via pharmacy dispensary, via telehealth, or via mail. And so the producers, the pharmaceutical companies that make Miffy, filed an emergency case with the Supreme Court last Wednesday, basically calling for, or last Friday, my days are all mixed up now, last Friday, basically asking them to stop, put in place a temporary injunction. So they put in a temporary injunction. We had till 2 o'clock today to hear from them. And they basically responded and said, we're going to extend the injunction through Thursday of this week. So now we have a couple more days, where we're waiting for either Justice Alito to make a decision on his own or to take it to the full court for a final decision. But again, we've been preparing for this moment. Our medical team is prepared. We've been providing MISO-only protocols and having MISO ready to go. We've been working with the state on this and Department of Public Health, both county levels and at state level, to ensure that if there is a pause to mifepristone, that we can still continue to provide care to those patients without any interruptions. So before I take questions, I think this group, you all are pretty active and you're engaged in the election, but I run into so many groups that just say, well, why do I need to vote? Or there's so much they just give up. They just think that their vote isn't going to make a difference. And so I think one of the things I always remind groups is the reason that the reproductive freedom movement is here is because we've gotten too comfortable. We kind of, and I take blame for this as Planned Parenthood. I think we got away from grassroots organizing. We got away from doing the things that are important. And we relied too much on text messaging, email, and not really getting those young people and just all people involved in these elections. We're in this situation because of election outcomes. And so moving forward, we really need to make sure that we have a pro-democracy, pro-civic engagement, pro-voting movement that is going to allow us to continue to protect access to reproductive health care. And we've seen it go away now, and we got to bring it back. But there's a lot of work that's ahead of us, but it's going to require people like you and myself to get involved and make sure we're fighting for it and providing it for the generations that come so that they don't forget the value of it. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions that you all have.
So, Christian, I do want to say
Yes.
that I've had some amazing questions in the chat, and I have been checking them off because you've answered so many of them during your really complete explanation of the services that you're providing and what you are encountering on a daily level at the and at the state level and at the national level. So there are only a few questions that I have down here that I'm hoping to just finish, and then I will open it up for maybe a quick question or two. So what are the support services for those clients coming from other states?
So as long as they're in California, as long as they have a California address, it could be a hotel room, it could be anything, and they're here throughout the 48 hours of their treatment for abortion, they can get those services or gender affirming care, whatever it may be. No questions asked on our end. We're not asking them if they're coming out of state. Some willingly disclose that to us. And so I can tell you, based on our data from last fiscal year, we saw a little bit under 1,200 patients that came from out of state. The year before that was probably a little bit under 1,000. And so in the 2 years that we've seen Roe overturned, we probably have seen about 2,400 patients or so from out of state. We work with other entities that really step in and provide financial support if they're needing like an air flight, if they're needing hotel coverage, et cetera. We also do have a very robust patient navigation program. And that was provided through the state of, those funds were provided through the state of California that allow us to, for example, if there's, and this is both for out of state, but also patients in California, if they can't get to an appointment, if they don't have somebody that has reliable transportation, we can order an Uber for them. We can order that transportation to get them where they need to go without any costs associated to them. We take care of all of it.
Thank you. You were talking about getting back to grassroots action and really kind of concentrating on the pro-voting movement and pro-civic engagement. What would you recommend for a Democratic club like ourselves? What can we be doing to support what you're up to, what you're doing?
It's a great question. You know, my background, I spent 12 years doing community organizing work across the state. And really, it's a skill that I've value and that I think is so critical, especially nowadays as I see kind of the direction of this party, the direction of the country and where we're heading to, is a lot of situations we've been out organized. We've been out, and we've been out organized because I think we get too caught up on who's in the room versus doing the work. And as we do the work, the people that need to be in the room will get there because they will get inspired along the way. And it's something that I really learned from the civil rights movement and, studying the farm worker movement over the last couple of years. So I would say finding ways to partner with us. We've really, since I've gotten here, have focused on launching local efforts to support candidates because I really feel that it's too late when somebody gets to the state level. At that point in time, they already got an idea in mind. But if we get somebody at city council, at board of supervisors, we can work with them. We can get them to really understand the issues. And so, especially in Solano County, there's so much great work to be done there. There's so many great candidates and people that need to be inspired to run for office. How do we build up that bench in the long run? so that we're not always looking at the same candidates. And if we can inspire those people to really believe in government, especially after this administration, I think that's going to be one of the biggest jobs we need to do. People are going to have a hard time trusting government. How do we get young folks interested in running for office to see that they can have an impact locally? So there's ways that we can partner on that, forums that we can do, door knocking that we can talk to folks. All those things are great avenues for us to get involved and educate folks about the services that we provide and why Planned Parenthood is so essential.
So I saw you at the Rock the Congress event in Napa last month, and you were on the panel with Rusty Hicks and with another gentleman I believe was from the Teamsters Union. And I thought your conversation was fascinating, talking about the upcoming elections, the midterms. And I was wondering if you might share a little bit about your insights after doing what you're doing, the current situation, the legal situation, and what you're seeing here in California in the political environment.
It's a great question. I think the one thing that still keeps me up at night as I'm thinking about this election is the possibilities of two Republicans on the ticket for governor. Um, and I think, we're beginning to see some traction on the Democratic end and some people dropping out and creating a little bit more momentum. But I do think that even now we're in second week of voting, right? Ballots have arrived. And people like you and I, who are good voters, we've probably already filled them out and sent them back. We're in the process of doing that this week. The average person who's got kids, who's got a job, who's got a bunch of other things that they're worrying about, they're probably not going to start paying attention to this until about a week before the election. And so I say that because we have time. We have a little bit of time here to talk to our networks, talk to our friends, to really get them to understand what's at stake here in California. Um, we're not perfect. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in California, but we can't have a setback by having two Republicans on the
Yeah.
ticket, because that affects everything else down the ballot, right? There's some important congressional races that can help flip this Congress in Washington. Prop 50 was put in place for a reason, and that job isn't done yet, right? Just passing Prop 50 was the first step. The next step is getting those congressional members to Washington and getting those right people out there to really begin to move the train back from where this administration took it. And so if we have two Republicans on the ticket, I can see Democrats not turning out in some of those really close races for Congress. And that's going to be even more detrimental for this movement. For us as Planned Parenthood, we're not going to jump into the governor's race. We were going to stay out of this one and just let the primary play out. But after a number of conversations, the VPs, my other counterparts coming together, we really push for us to get involved. And so we interviewed every candidate. We asked them tough questions about their background, about their commitment to reproductive health care and what they were going to do to combat the infrastructure chaos that's coming from HR1 to the healthcare system. And the person that really rose to the top was former Health and Human Secretary Javier Becerra. He just knocked it out of the ballpark, really understood exactly what we need in this moment in California. We need somebody that knows healthcare, that knows the system, that knows the state. He's been taking on this administration way before Attorney General Bonta and created that playbook for him. And so I think he's the right choice for us, and I hope many of you will join us in that. Um, and I think he's getting some traction for sure. And so we're going to do everything we can between now and the June primary, June 2nd, to get him elected because it makes a big difference who's in the governor's house right now. And we can't just have anybody there.
I appreciate the explanation for how you approached that endorsement process. You said that you're going to be doing all that you can between now and the end of this election. What exactly are you thinking that Planned Parenthood will be doing
So
get that word out?
We're
So
working with the campaign, so we're going to be doing some phone banking with them. And if you all are interested, I can send you a link. You can sign up with us. We have a rally that's coming up with him this Wednesday, super last minute. Just showed up on our radar over the weekend. So this is going to be in San Francisco. I can also share the link with you all. Actually, let me put it in the chat.
please do. Any information that you want to share with us, put in the chat for us. That'd be
Perfect. I'll
great.
put that there. But yeah, we have that rally coming up where people can come and hear him out and hear a little bit more about his platform and why he's running and why he's the candidate. And then we're also just doing our own voter education in our 20 counties. We have some nonpartisan C3 work that's out there, but we also have our political work, doing some phone bank and getting out the word about, people returning their ballots. It's really about getting those ballots out there. And then the other thing that I want to acknowledge is for many of you here, I know you're busy. You play multiple roles in what you do in your work and your volunteer activities with your families, et cetera. But making sure that people return their ballots, I think, is really critical. Um, we know historically primary elections are low turnout, and we're lucky if we can get 37% of the electorate out. And I even think for this election, with how many candidates are on the ballot, people are still going to choose to not turn out. And so any opportunity you can have to encourage folks to get them to vote, I think it's going to be really important.
Thank you, Christian. And I see I have been given the signal that our time for questions is over. I see we do have a hand up, and I'm going to encourage the person that has their hand up to please put their question in the chat. And if it's all right with you, Christian, if I do get a couple questions, may I share them with you and ask you to respond?
Absolutely. And I do want to address, I see Title 10 question here. Can I address that
Uh-huh.
really quickly? Because I think
Yes.
that's an important one. So
Yes.
Title 10 is, for those that don't know, is federal funding that was approved way back in the 1970s or so that pays for low-income families or who are able to get reproductive health care services at no cost. That funding was frozen by the Trump administration last summer. And there was a lawsuit that the ACLU put forward. And as that lawsuit was making its way through the courts, out of nowhere in December, the Trump administration, I think it was neglect and just, as we've seen with this administration, I think it was a mistake on their end, but they started flowing the money back to affiliates and to other reproductive healthcare providers. But the state of California also provided temporary support. So that money's coming back in. The question is whether or not that money is going to return in the new fiscal year. The state of California is committed to provide that care or provide that funding. At the federal government level, we're still advocating and making sure that it's there for people.
Thank you very much. And I do want to appreciate to say that I'm appreciative of all the great questions that were put in the chat that I could ask Christian. And I want to say thank you to you, Christian, for this wonderful presentation. You gave us a lot of great information, and really, truly, any links that you think would be helpful for us, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we look forward to having you come back and hopefully when the political winds have changed a little bit, we may be having a different kind of a conversation, and I'm hoping that we can make that happen.
Myself as well. I look forward to that. And thank you all so much for giving me the time this evening.
Thanks again, Christian. You take
Take
care.
care. Bye.
Good evening. You received an updated agenda with this additional speaker. It is my pleasure to have NSDC member Jeanette Wiley, who is running for re-election for Vacaville City Council, give a 2-minute presentation to tell us about herself and her campaign, and then submit to a 5 to 7 minute question and answer period. Please put your questions in the chat to me. We will be voting on her endorsement during the June meeting. So welcome, Jeanette. Please let me know when you're ready, and I will have Julia up. She's got the time already set for you. So let us know when you'd like to begin.
Okay, I will begin now. I was going to
Great.
set it on my clock, but now I see it on the screen, so I'm good to go.
There you go.
So I am Jeanette Wiley, and I currently serve on the Vacaville City Council representing District 6. And I thank the club for helping me be here. I ran in 20 and again in 22. I only had a 2-year term first because it was the first time we'd gone to districts. So now I'm running for a 4-year term again. Since I've been on the council, I feel like I have worked hard to be a voice of reason, to represent the people, and to look for ways to move Vacaville forward. I had opponents the last 2 times I ran. I do not know at this time whether anyone else will be running, but I imagine there will be people who are opposing me. So I know that having the support of the club on paper is great, but really in reality, it's having the people that help me with all the things that need to have a winning campaign, like talking to people, putting out the right flyers, and being endorsed by the club means a lot. I have been on the Central Democratic Committee for over 10 years. I'm also active really throughout the city. I feel like I work hard to be involved and visible and to listen to people. I've learned a lot in the 6 years that I've been on the council, but there's still a lot of things to do with budget, with housing, and also our parks, because now we have issues for that. So there'll be a lot of changes on the council. I think I can be a good force to remain on District 6 as a council member and work with the transition that we have ahead of us with the possible, well, new mayor, because our other one will not be running, or he might be, who knows? That's my 2 minutes.
Jeannie,
Thank you.
how much time are we doing for question and answer? I forgot.
About 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
And I am looking, I do not see any questions being given to me through the chat, but I guess if we don't have anybody that wrote in, if you have a question for Jeanette, you can raise your hand quickly, and I'm going to count on Julia to keep us on time. Kathy Fatinos, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, indeed. I'm hearing about a tax increase and that they're going to have to cut back with the police department and fire. What is all that about?
So basically, Vacaville has a structural deficit, and people say, well, why don't you spend within your means? But because of all the other prices that are going up, like the asphalt, the slurry seal, we have so many increasing prices that we don't have the income to keep up with that. So there is a possible tax measure for 1 cent on the city. The council hasn't approved it yet. We just completed 12 community meetings. There's a lot of information on the website. If you look at choosing a path forward, it explains the reason why we're doing it. A lot of it talks about public safety, and some people have been surprised or kind of irritated. Why is the police chief and why are the fire chief saying that we need this? The reality is that public safety is about 80% of our general fund budget. And so it does make a difference. And that's why they have said that they're browning out a medic at Station 72 and temporarily closing the crew unit and reassigning those people to patrol. So it's a true issue that the people can weigh in on for the fall.
Thank you. Good question. Thank you, Kathy. I see Dwayne Chrome has his hand raised.
Hi, Jeanette. Hey,
Hi.
One of the issues that doesn't get talked about too much in Vacaville, gets talked about some, kind of eclipsed by all the California forever chatter. But Vacaville has an urban growth boundary voter approved that's expiring in a couple of years. Are you guys working on putting that back on the ballot?
I don't know the answer to that question. We've said that we were looking outside the boundary for the east of Leisure issue, but whether or not we will, so that urban growth boundary would have to be a vote for the people, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I will look into that. So, but I know there was another area where they just annexed a little bit into the city, but I'm not sure about the urban growth boundary. Sorry.
I see any other questions? I have one of my own, but I want to make sure that I give everybody else a chance. I don't see any other hand raised. Jeanette, can you talk about what you see as maybe a couple of the challenges that you think are going to be coming up for the city of Vacaville in the next year or two?
Well, I think the funding is one big challenge that is already facing us. And
Mhm.
so, especially if this proposed sales tax doesn't get approved by the people or doesn't get approved by the council and go on the ballot, I mean, we will have to make significant cuts. This past year, we did cut, 2.5% per department. And I had my last district spruce up because we cut our district dollars. So there will be cuts that people will see because you can't cut that much money out of a budget and not have it, affect the citizens. So that's one thing that will happen. And then another challenge is just, it's been almost a year now, but a new city manager. And so there's just always transitions when you have new leadership. We have quite a few people new on the senior leadership team. And so new person in economic development just got hired, new person in IT. Our person from Public Works has been in the department for a while, but is new in the director role for the last year. So just making things go smoothly so we can make good decisions. And then, as the city manager said, we have a lot of big expenses ahead of us to keep current with the radio systems and the demands for things that we need to have that we haven't saved for specifically at this point.
Thank you, Jeanette. I see Marilyn Farley has her hand raised as well. We have about a half a minute left.
Okay, well, I put a couple of questions in
I
the
see
chat.
that.
I was wondering, Jeanette, if the city is working on anything to increase the supply of affordable housing, and I'm thinking particularly of small starter homes.
Yes, we do have several that we have kind of in the hopper, so to speak, and a few things are waiting for funding. But we have had several people on the council saying they aren't interested in inclusive housing or inclusionary housing or saving for that. So that makes it tough. So everyone says we want inclusionary housing or more affordable housing, but we can't really make it happen. And we've had also issues with developer fees keeping up with the actual cost. So we're not getting as much from that, and we won't for a while. So yes, housing continues to be a big issue. So there we go.
Thank you. And thank you for the great question, Marilyn. And we will have Jeanette Wiley come back in the June meeting, and we will do her endorsement vote at that time. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Democrat Denise Dix, candidate for Solano County Treasurer / Tax Collector and County Clerk. She will be giving a quick 2-minute presentation regarding her candidacy and will then take questions during a 5 to 7 minute time period. After that, Denise will be placed in the waiting room while members participate in a discussion and then vote via a Zoom poll on her endorsement. Outreach Chair Julia Routson Thomas will conduct the Zoom poll and then we'll announce the results later in the meeting. Remember, only current members are eligible to vote, and the new members must have joined at least 90 days prior to our meeting to be able to vote. With no further ado, I'm going to welcome Denise Dix and ask her when she will be ready to begin her 2 minutes.
I'm ready. I just want to give you a warning. I've been kicked off about 10 times this whole call, so just in case, just in case, it loads me right back up, so I'll be right there.
Wonderful.
No okay.
Welcome, Denise. Ready.
All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really do appreciate to speak to community organizations that care about local government. And I do see a former supervisor here in the audience as well, so that you guys are in good hands. So I'm running for Solano County Treasurer, Tax Collector, County Clerk, because because this office plays a critical role in safeguarding public funds, ensuring accurate and transparency, timely tax collections, and maintaining the stability, the financial stability of the county. I've lived here my whole life in Solano County. Actually, I moved here when I was 1, so I've lived here most of my life in Solano County, grew up here. Parents are county employee retirees. So Solano County is extremely important to me. I have 26 years of dedicated experience working for the Solano County Treasurer Tax Collector's Office. I have firsthand knowledge of systems, challenges, and opportunities that shape our county financial system. I also have a really great mentor, Chuck Lamelli. I've worked with him for 20.
I see what is going on with Denise. I'm hoping that
know. We also might ask her to mute her video. Sometimes if you just have the audio, it can come through better. So when she comes back online, we can ask.
Okay.
There she is. I have paused your timer,
Alicia,
but if you would like to mute your video, it might actually help with the connection.
Okay.
Why don't we try that? We'll give you a few more seconds then too.
Okay, sure.
There you go.
Where did you hear me what did I leave off on?
You were talking about Chuck Lamelli and mentorship under him.
Oh, yes. So I've worked for him for 26 years. Right now I'm just trying to absorb all of his 31 years of experience. I've earned promotions in this department through merit and leadership. In the past 2.5 years, I've served as the Solano County Assistant Treasurer, Tax Collector, County Clerk. Working in this office has just taught me the importance of transparency, strong internal controls, clear communication with the public. If elected, my priorities would be strength through public trust, through accessibility, easy to understand financial reporting, and modernizing the systems to improve accuracy and reduce wait times for the residents. I know you've all been there well, maybe not, maybe you're smart ones, but you've all been there with the lines going out the door on December 10th.
Thank you, Denise. I have a question here. Many of our county elected officials, auditor, controller, assessor, recorder, and so on, are all but invisible to the average community member. What is your plan to engage with the community?
I have actually been exploring this, and I've been looking at what other tax collectors are doing in other counties. And it may be that I start to film short videos on maybe just educational videos to display on our website, how to access our website, what our office does, what you can do in person and online. So that's one of the ideas I have to kind of engage with the community a little bit better. I'm also on yeah.
And you had something else that you wanted to talk to us about?
Yes, I just wanted to say about the community and especially Fairfield. I am on a nonprofit 501(c) board. I'm the president. I don't know if anybody knows the Scarlet Brigade from Fairfield High, but my daughter has since graduated, but some way I've stuck around and keep helping out.
Wonderful. I am looking to see if I don't have any more questions in the chat, but I would be really happy to take questions if you want to raise your hand. If anybody has
there is one in the main chat from Dwayne.
Thought I had already gotten to that one. Let me see.
Do you see any
opportunities? No, I see one from Dwayne. Do you see any opportunities for increased investment returns?
Yes, actually, we have partnered with Chandler. Chandler is a financial investment, and they handle our credit portion of our portfolio. So they handle the riskier investments, whether that be mortgage-backed, asset-backed, corporations. So they have someone who looks at it every day, could do break-even analysis if we need to, sell something and buy something. In my office, what we concentrate on is the short term. So we're looking for the cash flows. I need to make sure I have money in the bank for the schools when they get paid, county employees. You
I think we lost her again, but that
I
is
think
okay.
we
I will
did.
go ahead and pause the timer.
Yeah, let's pause and let's get her back in. I appreciate how persistent she is.
Oh, was I out again?
Yes.
I had
sorry.
a really good answer for that one.
we lost you at the short-term payments to schools and whatnot that do need to get money is
Right.
your main.
Yeah.
So yes, so my main focus, obviously we pay attention to what's going on in the economy every day. We're following this war very, very closely. So we're looking for signs of inflation, but in the short term, what I'm focused on is making sure that we have the liquidity to handle our cash flow. So, we do special districts, we do water agencies, which is a special district, cities, schools, that type of thing. I need to make sure that I've got the funds and liquidity there. So in my 1 to 2 years of investing, I'm making sure I'm hitting basic points so that I always have enough money that we don't have to go selling something and create a loss.
I have a good question for you here in the chat. How does the county protect elderly homeowners from deed theft?
That is a very good question. Thankfully, California is not you can just purchase or pay somebody's taxes and you can immediately get the deed. The only thing that I have heard of that can happen is if somebody is dwelling on the property for, I believe it's 5 years, they can go into the recorder's office and record a deed because they have, you can't see me doing air quotes, but they pretty much have lived and have ownership of this property for 5 years. We don't participate in anything like that. We actually just went through a public auction. And what a public auction is if a resident hadn't paid property taxes for 5 years, or a commercial property hadn't paid for 3 years. So those are the only types that my office or Chuck's office handles right now is public auction. California doesn't allow you to just come in and pay and be able to record a deed.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your campaign? Are you walking? Are you putting out information? Do you have a website so people can find out what you're doing if they would like to support you?
Yeah, I since I'm running unopposed, I am not out there campaigning. I do put my profile up. I believe the League of Women's Voters contacted me, so I put my profile up on Vote 411, and anybody who engages with me or addresses me and wants me to come speak somewhere, I do. But actively campaign, no, I'm just, if somebody calls, I'll come running.
That's great, and that's a great attitude. I do not see any other questions, and we have come to the end of our question and answer period. I'm going to ask you, Denise, if you will hold tight for a couple minutes. We're going to put you into the waiting room, and we're going to have a quick discussion, and then we will be making our decision on endorsement, and we'll call you back in just a couple minutes. Thank you.
She is in the waiting room.
Thank you.
Can proceed.
Well, this was pretty interesting. I didn't know much about what she does. Dwayne, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that she commended her current boss, Chuck Lamelli. So my guess is the club has never endorsed Chuck, who's a Republican. But so I served with Chuck. He was the treasurer when I was on the board. Rock solid. The entire department is rock solid. And we've been incredibly lucky in Solano that our elected department heads, whatever party they are, have traditionally come up through the ranks or come, in Chuck's case, he worked for Merrill Lynch. He was a broker. but we've had professionals. There's been other counties where people have run for things like this job who are ex-assembly members or ex-whatevers, and they just want to stay in politics, but they don't have a background. So, I mean, Denise is clearly not a politician. She's a grassroots in the sense of being raised in the department to do the job. So I like that. I like seeing professionals that want to stick around and help Solano County.
That's a great observation. And I love the idea of being rock solid, especially the money aspect.
Yes.
So
yes, we had, Chuck and I were simpatico on that.
I think that's great. And I appreciate your institutional knowledge of that, because you probably had much interaction with those folks.
I did.
When you were at the county level. Do we have any other questions or comments? Don, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I'll just say that I appreciate that, unlike many of his colleagues, Chuck actually is willing to serve out his term and allow the voters to at least have a pro forma voice in selecting his replacement. Unlike many people who resign midterm and have the board lateral to their deputies. She's appears to be more than qualified, and I would encourage the club to at least make an investment in outreach by endorsing her.
Thank you, Don, for that. Cass, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that in my own profession as a scientist, we have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but the biggest understanding of the job came when we were doing it and when we were learning about it on the job. So I like that she's been there. She's come through the ranks. And I think we should go ahead and endorse. I mean, in my opinion, we could endorse her just for that, for just being so knowledgeable about the whole job.
Thank you. Great comments. Is there anyone else that has any comments, observations that they would like before I turn this over to Julia? Oh, Kathy Fatinos.
Well, along those same lines, the fact that she's running unopposed is that we're going to have her no matter what. However, I think getting to know her and finding out more about her can only be a positive side effect of all this. I really like the way she spoke. And like I said, it wouldn't hurt to just find out more information and give her, it's somebody that we can work with. Anyway, that's it.
I agree. Thank you, Kathy. All right, Julia. I think we have heard from everyone. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the poll if I can find the button. Okay, here we go. Launching the poll. I'm sorry, can I have a motion?
I move to endorse.
What?
Who did we hear from? For Nancy. Who made the motion?
We got Bob Holdener has a motion, and I believe Don had a second.
Yes. There you go. That's
Wonderful.
To help Nancy. Okay.
Thank you. Launching the poll. Please remember, if your dues have not been paid, please do that so that you can be voting with us.
No.
And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll in a couple seconds. So if you have not voted yet, please do so. Ending poll. Okay. And while there are additional things to consider, this has passed, so we can go ahead and share those results. I will admit her back in, Jeannie, if you're good with that.
Do you need to do any verification of
not with these numbers, no.
Okay, I don't think so. Okay, so I think we can have Denise come back and we will give her the good news.
She is back, and I do not see her yet, but let's see. Denise, we just wanted to let you know. I see you. Your You are officially an endorsed candidate of the Northern Solano Democratic Club. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. And we will want to keep this conversation going just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Denise, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And we really enjoyed hearing about what you do and what you plan to do. Congratulations again. And you are very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you choose. But know that you're always welcome to be here and to come back and learn more about us too.
Oh, perfect. I will. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Denise. Okay, let's move on to the business portion of our meeting. We're going to begin by approving the minutes of our April 13th general meeting. You received this document last week, so we're going to only display it quickly. Nancy did a great job of putting the minutes together. Do we have any questions?
I see nothing.
I see nothing. Can we please have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move. Wiley.
Second?
Julia.
Thank you, Julia. I'm going to now ask Julia to administer the Zoom poll.
Okay, and give everybody a couple more seconds to finish the poll and ending poll.
Perfect.
Thank you, everybody. Minutes have passed.
Thank you for responding so quickly, everyone. Are there any items from the floor this evening? To see if I have any raised hands or if anybody is writing in the chat at this time. Seeing none, we're going to move on to approving the agenda for tonight's meeting. You should have received an updated. Did I hear somebody speak?
That's just, I put them on mute. You're good. Keep going.
Okay, thank you. You should have received an updated agenda in the past day or so. It's going to be displayed very briefly and then ask if there are any questions about the agenda for the evening.
Seeing none.
I see no hands raised. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
This is Gian, so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
That's Kathy Patinos.
And launching poll. I do appreciate everybody being willing to get through this pretty quickly. I'll leave this up for a couple more seconds. And so vote now or hold your peace and ending poll.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. We're now going to move on to the Treasurer's Report. I'm going to ask Treasurer Don Lowry to briefly discuss the monthly Treasurer's Report and to give us a report on the endorsement postcards recently sent out to voters in District 3 and 4.
Okay. Our beginning balance at the end of March is $28,311.26. We brought in a total of $1,330. That included $800 in a late check for our DEMPROM sponsorship, as well as $530 in regular dues and contributions. Our expenses during the month of April total $693.35. That included $541 for sign materials, $1566 for postage, $652.50 for postage, printing rather, and $19.78 for Act Blue, leaving us an ending balance on April 30th of $20,947.91. That does not include the postage expense for our postcards of $4,965.16, which was incurred after April 30th. So we have an effective available balance of $23,982.75. I do want to thank the 5 recurring contributions that are coming in for a total of $225 a month. We appreciate that very much. Our membership is currently at 128 paid members. We've added 2 already in May, including 40 sustaining members. And before we move on, I do want to highlight these over $3,100 in-kind contributions received in association with our DEM prom. So you were very generous with your desserts and your silent auction items and all of that. I very much appreciate that. Those of you who might be doing the math, we actually spent a total of $5,617.66, which is slightly over what was budgeted for our cards. The reason why is because our printer gave us over 1,700 cards more than we ordered. So we had a substantial surplus after we had sent out the initial order. And in discussions with the board, we decided that we would attempt to send out the rest of those cards, or the bulk of those cards, to a list if we could come up with one. And basically we sent to Young Democrats. And as a result, the final cost of that postage, we went 100, and what was that figure? $117 over budget. So we felt sending out to 1,400 our somehow Young Democrats was worth us coming back and asking for forgiveness rather than permission. So that's the action we took, and hopefully those of you who are in the district have received your cards by now. I know I received mine last Friday. So I want to thank all of you who've invested in our fundraising efforts over the last few years to do that. I do also just want to highlight, I don't know if it will show up with my screen, our pre-election report that we submitted to the state was 122 pages as a result of the DEM prom and your generous contribution. So that part of it, I didn't appreciate the fundraising. The fact that we were able to do this on behalf of our candidates, I did appreciate. But thank you all for your hard work on making this happen. And I know that we'll be doing it again this fall to support our candidates. And that's all I have. So if anyone has any questions, otherwise, over to you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. And I do want to give a little bit of kudos to Don, because he actually was the one who came up with the great idea to do the outreach to the Young Dems when we discovered we had a huge surplus of cards. And he was the one who came up with that extremely quickly and made it happen. So thank you so much, Don, for that. We really appreciate that. And I do want to say thank you so much to Nancy Federley for putting those cards together, because they looked awesome. And when I went and got mine out of the mailbox, I was just as proud as I could be to have it in my hand, because it looked so great. So thanks so much for all your efforts, Nancy. We really appreciate what you did. Okay, now we're going to move on to talking about our committees and working groups. The first one is the forum, and that's going to be starting up sometime during the summer. So we're going to be taking a short break for that. I'm going to ask Don Lowry to speak very briefly to make the announcement about the next meeting time for the Our Values group.
Yeah. I can't remember if we covered this in the last meeting, but um, after some delay in being able to coordinate with people, uh, sent out to the members who attended the first meeting. Um, the third Thursday seemed to be the best alternative option for people. So our next scheduled meeting will be May 21st, 7 p.m., I think is what we agreed on. And if you want to make sure your invitation is included, please let me know. Send me an email. We will include it as part of the special invite, although, of course, we will be having that link put out by Jeannie to the membership at large. And we do want to continue those discussion on our values. And I appreciate everyone who participated in the first meeting. We had a good discussion, and it was very robust. And we look forward to moving it forward.
Thank you, John. I see Julia has her hand raised.
I do. I just wanted to, it's a couple things came up, and I would also like us to kind of consider, yes, I would also like an invitation, but I would like us to consider potentially spelling out specifically what our values are and things that we would want to ask our club members to ask if they'd adhere to them. Like a code of conduct or something that we all sign on when we get into the club. There have just been, I mean, this Falwell stuff, a bunch of other stuff has come up, and it leaves me with a heavy heart, guys. I truly hate hearing about this stuff about people that are supposed to be on our same team. So that's just my thing right now.
Thanks, Julia. I appreciate you bringing it up because we do have some things to address. So I think that we can certainly put that on the list to talk about at the next meeting. So thank you for saying that. The next group we're going to talk about is the Overpass Messaging Crew. The NSDC and members of Indivisible met on the Nut Tree Overpass on Sunday, May 3rd with new signboards to display to Highway 80 drivers. And we had folks with flags and personal signs for drivers that were actually going over the overpass. We have learned our lesson and we have ditched the PVC pipe, and we are actually just putting little tiny bungee cords through the grommets on each of our letters. And as you saw in the newsletter, it really looked great. We were able to get them up onto that fence in less than 10 minutes. And then we had plenty of time and energy to do the sign waving. We are continuing to come up with new messages, and we are going to be establishing a letter library. So with each sign that we do, we're going to see what we can use from the last one and then make new ones and then continue to expand our alphabet portfolio so that we can continue to be flexible and put up our signs. The next one the event will be on Sunday, May 17th from 2 to 3. If you want to join us, you will be getting information. We'll put out an announcement. We are going to be painting boards tomorrow at my house at 10:30 if anybody wants to come over and paint a board or two and to come up with some catchy new messages for our next go round. We're going to do a little bit of scouting to see if we want to move out from that Nut Tree overpass, and we may be moving farther down into Fairfield to be facing west. So we will keep you in the loop on that, and you certainly will get information on that. Now I'm going to turn this over to Steve Federley, who's going to talk a little bit about the Legislation Study Group.
Hello, everyone. The Legislative Study Group last met on May 9th. I'd like to briefly show you what we were working on. Julia, can you go to the website and show that? At previous meetings, group members narrowed our scope to 9 bills, and each member chose 1 or 2 of these to research. Our findings are posted on this working website that you can see there. Julia, could you click on AB 1984? For example, AB 1984 is a bill about corporate spending powers. It proposes that corporations and other artificial persons do not inherently possess the power for political spending. On the website, there is information about the bill, as well as a sample letter of support that Kathy Fatinas wrote. Here's what we're asking NSDC members to do. Please look at the legislative website. It's on the screen now. The link is in the chat, or you can access it from the NSDC website. Give us feedback on which of these 9 bills you think the NSDC should focus on first. It will give our group guidance on how we should proceed. After getting your input, the legislative group will then begin drafting letters of support or opposition, which we will bring back to the club for approval. We can also expand our support or opposition by making calls or even visits to our elected representatives. Of course, you can write letters on your own. However, we feel that the club's voice has power when heard as a group, and therefore we look forward to getting your input. Because timing is a factor, we are asking for input within the next 10 days, if possible. I would also like to encourage any member who's interested in coming to our Zoom meetings to come. We can really use your help. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And if you have any links or any information that you want to put into, oh, I see that Nancy, gosh, you beat me to it, Nancy, before I even had a chance to say anything. Thank you so much. And thank you, Steve, for all the work that you're doing on the legislative committee and for all the people that are doing it, that are on the committee with you. We appreciate it. As far as the coffee meetup group, with the primary and the general elections taking shape, the coffee meetup group is going to go on hiatus until after November. So we will be back at it after that, but we kind of feel like we have a lot to do right now. And we will be on the search for the elusive coffee meetup place in Fairfield. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the 2026 campaign group. The group met for the first time on Tuesday, May 5th. The group discussed strategies for increasing participation in the political process. The participants came up with specific actions to take to bring in community members who have not been active and had suggestions on groups and organizations to contact for greater involvement. The next date for our meeting is to be determined after the primary has concluded, and there will be contact info that I will be putting in the chat if you would like to know more about when that group is meeting and information about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about tabling for, I'm going to move on to club business and talk about tabling for a couple of our upcoming events. The first one is going to be put on by the Solano Pride Center and the City of Sassoon. They're getting ready to do their Sassoon Pride on Sunday, May 31st from 12 to 6, and that's going to be down at the Sassoon Harbor. The NSDC has a table for that event, and we are going to put a tent up and have literature and maybe a little bit of swag and maybe some goodies to share with people that come by our table. And we are looking for people that will come and sit there and be great goodwill ambassadors for the NSDC. Nancy has already put together a really great flyer asking for folks who would want to take shifts. We're looking for people that will come maybe to take 2-hour shifts, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 6. The 12 to 2 group will be involved in putting up the tent and putting up the chairs and getting things organized. And then the 4 to 6 group we will be asking you to help us take down the tent at the end. So we are going to be looking for volunteers for that event. And we are also going to be looking for people that want to come and help at the Vacaville Pride in the Park, which is going to be on June 13th from 12 to 4. We're going to be looking for folks that would like to volunteer to participate in that as well. So these are both great events. We have a table at the Vacaville Pride event already. This is a great opportunity for visibility out in our communities. And I think that it would be great if we could have a ton of folks that would show up and just kind of be there to be friendly faces, and hopefully we'll have lots of folks come over and ask us questions about what it's like to be in the Northern Solano Democratic Club. We're now going to have Julia Routson Thomas do a presentation for the NSDC's upcoming July 4th event. I'm going to turn this over to Julia to make her presentation, and then we are going to be doing a Zoom poll at the end of it.
Jeannie, I just want to answer Dwayne's question. Are we supporting Mike and Wanda at the Sassoon Pride event? We do have some of our endorsement postcards that we were planning on having at the table, but nothing specifically for either candidate, although they are welcome to hang out with us at our table.
Yeah. We did talk to Mike about the Sassoon event, and I think he's planning on coming by. And we will have some of his literature there, and we'll try to get some great pictures of him at that. And we are certainly going to extend the invitation, Dwayne, for Wanda as well. So both of those candidates, we want them to be there and visible, and of course they've got 100% of our support. So we want to make sure that other people know that as well. Don made an observation that that's get out the vote weekend, and that they're probably going to be doing lots of out and about kind of stuff. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to see them down there, maybe just to hang out with us and press the flesh a little bit if we're lucky enough to have them. And they want to take a break from being out and about in the greater community. If they want to come back and hang out with us for a while, we would like to have them. So I'm going to turn this over to Julia and have her do her presentation.
Okay, so everybody got the email regarding the venue for 4th of July, which we were lucky enough to get, and it's very exciting. So our venue is going to be Arlington Park, which we have done events at before. The nice thing about Arlington Park is the shade structures as well as the mature trees. So between those two things, it actually stays pretty pleasant, even in Vacaville heat. Although I will recommend a little neck fan or one of those neck cooling devices, because it's going to be 4th of July, and quite frankly, it's Vacaville. So the thing that we're going to be trying for is a bit family friendly, a bit community friendly. So with that said, our pricing is pretty low. Yes, it is. Gion's birthday is July 4th. She is an Independence baby. So we are going to keep ticket prices low at $15, and try to earn money through sponsorships for this event. So hopefully we are able to get some people to do some sponsorships for this event, which will allow us to just pay for food costs with our tickets. So we're not doing any prices. It's just printing. So just some pretty low cost stuff. So we have already voted on the venue that has already been approved and paid for. We are just voting on the money for food decorations, serving utensils and whatnot, and printing costs. With that being said, we're looking at about $2,000-ish in profits for this event. This will help keep us on the black side when we get into November and do another endorsement postcard for the general. Tony Yang, a 5-gallon bucket mister, will absolutely be appreciated and used. So sponsorships, the Platinum, which is, I believe, $500, gets up to 8 tickets, signage, or a table at the event. So if somebody wants to host a table for a campaign, or if they just want to have their beautiful face and name displayed at the event, they're welcome to that. Social media and newsletter, dedicated thank you posts. Gold is up to 4 tickets, signage at the event, social media and newsletter, thank you posts. And then silver is up to 2 tickets, group signage at the event, group social media, and letter thank you posts. So